Talk Derby to me once again. We've got a right week of some of my favourite Derby players. We had Will Hughes on last week, and that's just come out. Jamie Ward tomorrow.
Oh, Wardy?
Nice. Ward tomorrow, mate. Ward is. We're pulling all the big guns out.
All the old boys.
So Johnny Russell, live from America, mate. This is like something off TV or something, like you're live streaming on the podcast. How are you, pal?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, mate. I'm all right. How's it over there at the minute? Are you in lockdown? What's the situation?
No, we've got our first game back. Well, obviously we started the season. We were 2 games in, and then all this happened. So we were in lockdown for months, and then we went and done the tournament in Orlando just recently. So done that, and then we've been back for just over 3 weeks now, and season starts back. Our first game's tomorrow, so no, it's good though. We're doing it in like games of 6, just so we don't release too much of a schedule and then we can't fulfill it. So games of 6. I think from tomorrow we play 6 games from the 21st to the 13th of September. We've got 6 games, and then all going well there, they'll release sort of next 6 fixtures, and we'll play up until the playoffs in November and then final in December. So no, we're good. It's Kansas has been pretty good throughout. We didn't really get hit too hard, to be honest. So I mean, we went into lockdown, but we went into lockdown kind of early before we were really hit bad. So it's been difficult, obviously, but it's not been as hard here as it has been in most places.
The preparations gone okay for the new season? You're raring to go and play some football?
I've done like 3 pre-seasons. done one in January, and then obviously all this happened. We had to do another one leading up to the tournament, and then we've had like a mini pre-season here in the break. So it's been difficult, quite a lot of running, but now we're good. We're ready to go and just ready to get back into stadiums and play games. That's been not played in a stadium since March. The games we played in Orlando were like the ESPN, like their ground. So it's obviously it's like 20 pitches, but it's all like open. So it's just weird to play games not in a stadium. So it'll be good to get back to that.
How much does it differ over there from playing in Scotland and England? Is it much different how it's MLS, how it's set up and the standard? Is it a lot different, or is it kind of all the same?
I mean, it's kind of all the same. Obviously, it's slightly different in the way that they do, the East and West conferences, and then you do the playoffs in your conference, and then the two winners of each meet. I mean, that's the only difference, but it's pretty much set up the same. You play the teams on your side, play them home and away, and then the teams from the other side, you play them once, and it alternates every year. So like one time it'll be at home, the next season it'll be away. So you usually get a couple of good trips in. You get to go to good places like that. So that's the only difference. The standard's good. I know a lot of people have got their own idea and their own perception of the standard here, but I mean, I was coming in here expecting it to be high, but even in the years that I've been here, it's took a step up every time. It's going to continue to do that. The players that they're attracting as well. Some
treks for away games though. That must be one difference. Do you have some absolute massive trips for away games?
See, to be honest, it's kind of like when we were in Derby. I mean, we're pretty central, so Kansas as well, we're central. So, I mean, I think our longest flight's about 3 hours, and that's the only difference is everything's a flight instead of a bus. But, I mean, travelling's never really bothered me. A lot of people said, like, coming here, the travelling, but I think because we are so central that it's pretty easy, to be honest.
Going right back then to first starting getting involved in football and playing football, can you remember like your earliest memories of playing? Was it like playing for a local side up in Glasgow?
Yeah, so I played with a local side. I think I joined them when I was like 4 or 5, and played with them throughout until it was the first year. So I was always younger. I played with an older group, so they were always like a lot bigger than me. So I played with them up until I think it was the year. I think it's the year you first go to 11-a-side. I can't remember what age that is, 9, 10, whatever that is. And like they basically said to me, "You're too small." So I was like that. I mean, that was hard to take when you're that you're that young and like all your mates are there. You've been there for years, and basically they say to you, oh, like to go really, and they're like, oh, but like in a year or two, like come back, and then it did come to that where they were like, oh, like I didn't grow much because still about the same height as I was as a kid, but it's. They asked me to come back, and I was like, nah. Like I'd found a new place to play, I'd made new mates, and I think that's where the sort of loyalty thing started for me as well. Where I was like, that other team took me in, made me feel welcome. I met a lot of good pals there. A few of the boys that I played with there, I'm still mates with to this day. So they asked me to go back, and I was like, nah, you're good. And stayed there until I went to Dundee United. I think I was about 13 when I signed there.
Do you feel like you had to work a little bit harder then, being told you're small even at that age? Do you have to put a bit more in, or do you just at that age you play and you've got your natural ability and it just comes natural?
At that age, I wasn't too fussed. So like, oh, you're too small, and nothing much I can do about that, to be honest. So, and that was that's quite common. Like back then, where especially in the UK, we've got this perception of like, oh, you're too small to play, where it doesn't really matter in other countries. So. No, I mean, it wasn't so much that, it was just difficult, basically letting you, it didn't really matter the reason. So I wouldn't say it made me work harder. I was at an age that you just play for enjoyment anyway, you're constantly playing. So, no, I wouldn't say, that affected me in that way, no.
So breaking through at Dundee, was it initially you go for a trial playing a decent, obviously playing well naturally, and you get a trial and you break in at Dundee? Was it you get in at, how old was that, 13, 14 maybe?
I think it was like 13. There was so back then, you used to play in tournaments most weekends. So it was a tournament, and I think it was Lenzie, and that's where Dundee United scouts were there. They'd done a lot of scouting in Glasgow. The majority of their team was Glasgow-based players, and they offered me a trial. I had a bit of interest from a few different clubs at that time, but they offered me a trial, and they had a really good track record of bringing through youngsters even then. So it was kind of one. It was not an easy decision to make, but they were like, "Come down and play." I think the game was in like Dumfries, the trial game. Like, come down and play in that, and we'll just take it from there, see how it goes. Went down. I think I'd scored a hat trick in like the first half, and they like just said to me, "We'll sign you."
Yeah.
And I was so buzzing. At that age, to obviously sign with like a pro club,
yeah.
I was buzzing, and then obviously I was there 13 to 23 until I left for Derby.
And when you left Dundee, I remember, I can, off the top of my head, so correct me if I'm wrong, I remember that there was interest from Derby, but there was interest from Celtic as well, was it, at the time?
Yeah. So the January just before that, I had a couple of bids from a team in Serie A, and I was set on going. Like, I wanted to go abroad, wanted to go and play abroad, and obviously it was Serie A as well, so I was like, if I get the chance here, I'm gone. It was Catania. And I think I made 2 or 3, but just never got accepted. So that never worked out. And then, to be honest, the Derby thing came out of nowhere. So leading up to that summer transfer window, I knew I was going. Had sort of already said that I wanted to go try something different. The club were basically saying, right, well, we'll sell you. We want our money basically, and then we won't stand in your way. And there was always a link with Celtic, because obviously Scottish boy doing well, growing up, but everyone knew I was a massive Celtic fan as well. So that link was always there. And that was leading into it. It was only really that was spoke about was the Celtic link. So the Derby one literally came out of nowhere. I was actually in Tenerife. I was on holiday, and I don't know if I got a phone call like the day before I left, something like that, saying that Derby are really interested. And then that's when the bidding started happening between Derby and Celtic. And I think they both went to like $500,000. And then Dundee United said, no, we want a bit more. Derby went to 650, and Celtic wouldn't budge on the $500,000. And that was literally what it came down to. And I mean, like someone from the background I had, the way I grew up, if it was a choice, I would have went to Celtic. But I mean, it never came to that. They didn't offer the extra money, and at the time I was thinking, come on, man, it's like, I know it's a lot of money, but it was like, you've went this far, like just go a little bit further. And the bid got accepted when I was on holiday. Spoke to Nigel Clough when I was on holiday, and I was like, this, like I'm right up for this. He's like made me, just the way he spoke, speaking about my game, speaking about off the pitch stuff as well. They'd done so much research, so for me it came out the blue, but they must have been doing like some amount of digging, like some of the stuff they knew. So it was like, like he like really like wants me, knows me. So I was like, nah, definitely I'm up for this. So next couple of days, like we're just like, go and enjoy your holiday, like we'll sort everything out. So obviously then my agent went back and forth speaking, and like got a phone call saying like, this is it done. Like flew back from Tenerife, done my medical, done everything, signed, and then flew back out like the next day. So I think it was in Derby. In Derby for like 2 days. Bryce came and met me, was taking me about, showing me areas to live. I went back to Tenerife, and so it was like my missus, and I was there with a few of our close friends and like partners. Literally the night we got back, I've never actually told anyone this, so we got back that night, and they'd got me a bottle of, like they'd all bought me a bottle of champagne to celebrate. And I'd had a few drinks because I was like, I've just signed, so I was like, celebration time. And I've dropped the bottle of champagne. It's exploded, and a bit of glass has like popped up and slit the side of my wrist.
No way.
So the night I got back to Tenerife, I had to go to hospital, and like get all my arms stitched up. So that was pretty eventful. Couple of 24 hours, man. But that was like, like Derby are a big team when it's happening. Like I've got a fairly good, obviously, football knowledge that I know that. But it wasn't until I went down there, you see the stadium, you see the training ground and everything like that, I was like, nah, I'm like properly right up for this now, and everything worked out.
Initially then, like, this is what I've always wondered. Obviously you got a lad from Scotland, Boyard, Celtic fan, you got Derby and for you, Celtic in for you. When Derby won the bidding more, are you initially a little bit gutted that it's, or
no, I wouldn't say, well, I wouldn't say gutted, man. I would like, it would never be that sort of respectful. I was more gutted that I didn't get the chance to like go to Celtic, if you know what I mean. But I wasn't gutted that like Derby won that sort of bidding war. I wasn't gutted in that way. But it was just like, it was like a dream to play for Celtic. I mean, but it worked out. It worked out well. I had a great time there. Met some great people as well that I'm still mates with to this day. So no, I was, as much as I was disappointed with the whole Celtic thing that happening, and the other side of the coin, I'm delighted that the Derby thing did.
So coming down and playing for Nigel Clough, obviously we've had Bryce and Yozza, Will Hughes on, and they both spoke so highly of him. Was he a massive influence on you coming down and playing in English football for the first time?
100%. And he looked after me really well. I was just coming off the back end of the season, so I think I only played from maybe January or February. I broke my leg in Scotland, and I think I only played maybe 1-2 games max just before the end of the season. So like, he was talking to me, he's like, I know you've got your injury, I'm not bothered about that. And then even in pre-season, so I was like struggling up, and he looked like right after me, he's like just don't be stupid, like we know what you can bring, your work and stuff like that, so just get yourself back into it. And then even in the games, obviously it was a big jump going from Scotland to the Championship, and just the pace of the game, the physicality of the game, and he always looked after me. So no, he was brilliant in that way. And just his man management, like a lot of people think he's old school, but like he makes you feel like really wanted, and that you can go out and do anything. To be honest, he's I mean, he'd go through you at times. If he needed to go through you, he'd go through you. But at the same point, if he knew when you needed an arm around you and like a wee chat or whatever it was, and he was very good at that.
Do you think he gets enough credit? Because your first season, obviously an unbelievable season, that ends with defeat we'll get onto, but do you think he gets enough credit? Because a lot of that was his side.
Yeah, no, I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for what he built there, like the players he brought in. And like I said earlier, like it's the background checks he does on you. He wanted to know who he was bringing into the team. I mean, obviously, he wanted to bring in quality players and players with ability, but it was more of the type of boys he was bringing in. And he had a real knack of bringing in, so like me, young player, hungry, wanting to prove something. He had a knack of finding players with something to prove. And the way he was able to gel it all together was brilliant. And, you know, even when he left, we had like a little dinner for him. I think it was the week after that he left. That obviously when people get sacked, you don't really get the chance to spend much time with them after that. But we all went and sort of said our goodbyes and thanks for bringing me here. Like, just gutted it didn't really work out, to be honest.
It was a hell of a season. I remember the first game after he left was obviously we were 4-1 down against Ipswich and come back to 4-0. And
yeah.
You could tell at the time. I know we went on to get Steve McLaren and have a brilliant season, but I think as a fan who was sat in the stand that night, you could tell that not that the players, I would never say, because you could tell it wasn't that the players weren't playing, but the players were gutted. I think you could tell that there was a thing around the club that they were gutted. Were you gutted when he eventually departed?
Oh, of course, man. I think it was only 9 or 10 games in when he went, so it was like he brought the majority of that team in. So, I mean, a lot of us felt a lot of loyalty towards him. So we were gutted when he went. I know there was a lot of boys in the change room who took it hard, him going. And that game didn't come much longer after he got sacked. I think it was
Tuesday. I think it was Forest on the Saturday, then we played it on
the Tuesday. So it wasn't a lot of time. There was no sort of real turnaround to. It was just a weird few days, to be honest. And then we're 4-1 down. And Simo and Steve McLaren came in at half time, and Simo went mental. Like,
really?
So we were like, oh shit! Like, this is
See, when we've had Bryce and Will on, they've said, "Oh, they come in," but we've never had any more detail on it.
So Simo went mental.
Did he?
Simo went mental. But the manager, that he didn't. So it was sort of like good cop, bad cop. Simo came in, all guns blazing. Then McCann was like calming it down, saying, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, that." And then obviously came out in second half and got the results. So I think that was the sort of first sign of like what was going to come from that team as well, being able to claw that back.
I was going to say, was that the catalyst? Because it was pretty much the same team that was there on the Clough. There was a couple of loan additions, like Andre Wisdom, Pat Bamford, Simon Dawkins, just a few extra additions. But was that the kind of the catalyst? And never really looked back from then. We were just tanking teams every week.
Exactly. So that was sort of the turning point, really. I mean, as gutted as we were that obviously Nigel had gone, we still had a full season ahead of us. So it was basically, we have to move on from it. You have to adapt, and the aim of every season was to go up, and we knew that that was the ultimate goal. That was the ultimate aim.
Coaching wise, McLaren, is he up there? Best ever?
Yeah. Definitely for purely just his knowledge and his coaching of the way he went about the game and the way he got us playing, then he's definitely up there for me. I've always said that. I know there's a few boys had like issues, but nah, for me he was very good. To begin with, like, we spoke a lot because obviously I came down as a centre forward. I'd always played in a 2 up top. That was how it started at Derby, me and Big Chrissy. And then obviously Clarn came in, we changed the system. So I'd never played as a winger until he came in. So, and then his first game, played Leeds, and Stevie Warnock broke my leg again. So I was like, oh, brilliant. Manager's first game in, and I've done that. But even when I was injured, he was like, just look after yourself. Like, there'll be a place there for you when you get back. So I mean, that was good for me. Obviously, like he was brilliant, and even during that time, I think he knew obviously that I wasn't a winger, so I had to adapt quickly. And he showed me a lot of footage, talked me through a lot of it, and positioning where I had to be and stuff like that. So no, it was brilliant for me.
Looking back, I know we had a few more injuries later on in the season after Christmas. I think Chris Martin was out for a bit, and there's a few from being top of the league. Do you think that team, looking back, should that team have maybe gone up? Were they unlucky not to have gone up?
Yeah, we should have went up. I think maybe a bit longer in the season, maybe a few more games, we would have went up. But obviously, it didn't happen that way. Went through the playoffs, and at no point in the playoffs did I think that we weren't going up. Even in the final, like when we were playing, I was just thinking it's a matter of time before we get this goal. Like, complete domination in the game. I think it's a matter of time. Like, even as time was going on, you can get a little bit worried. You're like, oh, this is... But no, like during it, we're thinking, it's coming. And then everyone knows what happens. But no, that was really tough to take. And even now, that's probably like the lowest I've been after a game. And even after that, the pre-season, we didn't have a lot of time. We were back in like 2.5 weeks later, so it didn't really have much time to sink in as well. And you're right back into pre-season. That's the last thing you need after that is try to get your mind into pre-season. But that was just the way we played in that season. I spoke about it before. Like, a lot of people would have seen that team as the way we went about it as like an arrogant team, but we were just so confident. And like, no disrespect to any other team, we just felt going into a game we were winning it, and it didn't matter who it was.
Sometimes it was how many are we going to get? That was my plan. How many are we going to get today?
That was our thinking going into games. We're like, this could be anything. And even if a team scored, we're like, right, no worries, we're still going to batter them. That was the way we went into games. And I think some of the results showed that as well.
Wembley, looking back, do you ever think back to just about to burst in and throw on goal? Because I do.
I've seen it a few times, and even out here, we played a game in LA, and there was Derby fans in the far side of the stadium, so I'd seen them. So I was like, after the game, I was going to go over, and one of the guys who were away was a QPR fan.
Oh wow!
And he brought it up, and I was like, I came halfway across the world, and I'm still getting reminded of this. But nah, like, I mean, you never know what would have happened. But I like to think if he doesn't take me down, I'd like to think I'm scoring that. And that still runs through my head. That like how close we were. I mean, it's inches. Like if I'm another few inches, I'm in the box. Like, does he bring me down? Even if he does, it's a penalty. And Big Chrissy probably sticks that away. So it's difficult, to be honest, still thinking about it, but it wasn't to beat.
My abiding memories, I've spoken about this before, is walking out the ground, obviously like devastated, but walking up the stairs, because I was right on the segregation with the QPR fans, and the QPR fans were clapping us as we left the ground. Yeah. It was just a surreal game of, like, even they felt bad that they'd won. It was just surreal.
So even a few of their players were like hanging on, and a few of them spoke to our boys after it, and like obviously they were celebrating, and we waited because we were like, we're not going to be sore losers, we're not going to leave. So we waited till they went up, got the trophy, and congratulations or whatever, and they were like, so I didn't really expect that, to be honest, and they were like fair play. But I mean, it's just a horrible day, to be honest.
going into the next season, obviously up there again for a lot of it, and just missing out on the final day. Was it? Can you kind of sum that season up? Because as a fan, obviously disappointment that you only need a point against Reading last game of the season. But again, another great side. And if you look at the Championship now, last season and this coming season, the teams are in it. I think you throw that Derby side in now, I think you've got a lead from last year, or because I think that's how good the team were.
Yeah, that season was summed up shortly. Shit, it was brutal. That was like Wembley was probably the worst one, but the next season it was so difficult in ways because you could sort of see it coming over time. I think end of February, we're 5 points clear, 11, 12 games to go, something like that. And then to completely miss the playoffs if you're sitting in that position at that time, you should be thinking about top two. You should be thinking about going up automatic. And to have to go into the last game of the season and need a point. And then even at that, like needing a point at home, like normally we'd be like, not a problem. But there was just something about those last couple of months of that season that just, I don't know, I just still can't put my finger on it, what happened or what went wrong. I know we had a few injuries, but we had more than enough quality to deal with it. And it just didn't happen. And then obviously the Reading game was horrible. I think 3 it finished, I think.
Yeah, 3, yeah. I think it was Mr. Penalty. Did Ben miss a penalty?
I think we missed a penalty. I think they scored an early goal from a mistake from us as well. But no, that was a lot of like tough times, but that one was pretty tough as well.
McLaren departing afterwards. I know there was speculation beforehand, but did you expect him to leave after that result, or was that a shock?
I mean, it was a weird one. Like obviously the speculation for ages, and like I know where the fans were coming from. He didn't really distance himself from it, but we were like, can't really see him going. If you know what I mean, we honestly didn't think he was going to go, and then it happened. So we were like a bit of a shock, and obviously a bit gutting as well, because you just need to look at the football we were playing under him. I know that that season didn't end well, but I mean we're still playing some good football. Probably not to the consistency we were the season before, and how good and dominant and ruthless we were that season. But at the same point, it's probably the best team football I played my career under him. So to see him go, that was gutting when you're enjoying playing that much under someone and the style of play that you've got. It was difficult that way to take, but obviously he made the decision that he felt was best for him, and I don't hold any grudges to anyone who does that. So he went there and it didn't quite work out for him, but that's a chance that he felt he had to take.
And Paul Clement coming in again, another great side that maybe should have done a little bit more. How much it was a fairly new manager to come in at the time? Was he massively different from McLaren and Clough before?
They all had their different ways, different training, different style of how we wanted to play. Like you say, we were a good side, probably not as sort of free flowing and attacking as we were under McLaren, but at the same point we still had a lot of quality players in that team, and we should have done a little bit. We're about to get interrupted here.
Hello.
You saying hi? Yeah. You come sit here for a second. So he was in fresh ideas, completely different way of going about things as well, and like you said, we played some good stuff under him. I think we were 5 points off top when he left as well, and another shock as well, like that one. Didn't see that coming at all. I think it was after the Fulham away game. I think we played Fulham away. And I think Fulham beat us. And then he was gone after that.
My boys, Daddy.
Are they playing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see them?
I think they're playing baseball.
Looking back, can you pick a favourite Derby memory? Obviously, there's the 5-0 that I'd put my finger on. Playing in a game like that.
I mean, there's a couple. The Brighton home game in the playoffs. I mean, even the Brighton away game. Like, we went down there and they should have won that game, but we snuck it 2-1, and we were all buzzing winning that game. And then we came in and Steve McClaren was fuming at us for the way we'd played. We were thinking, like, Brighton are a good team. We've came here and we've like snuck one from under them, so we were buzzing. Like, sometimes they feel even better than like killing a team. So we were all buzzing. He's came in going crazy after that, and then obviously taking them back to Pride Park. And I mean, what a game that was! The scenes at the end of the game, everything about that. But probably, I think it's probably got to be the Forest game. I mean, I think that sticks out for everyone. It's definitely my top moment. Just the history of the game. Obviously, Bryce getting the hat trick, and just the scoreline in which we beat them, especially in a derby game as well. So, no, we were buzzing. It was a good day. It was even better night as well. Don't think any's paid for a drink, but no, that was probably definitely my best time at Derbyshire.
Could you tell playing in that game, even someone who's not as local, how big it was, or was it like the first time you played that you kind of went, wow, this is something?
So we played them away first. I think that was just when, I think it was after that result, Nigel got sacked, was when they beat us there. So we were like a bit of revenge here, get one back over on them to win in the way we did, emphatic. Like, we were just all over them for the whole game, just constant pressure. And obviously, I mean, the games are for the fans. Like, for us, we know it's a derby game, you want to beat your rivals, but like, we're seeing it as a game you need to go and get the 3 points. But like, to get that sort of victory, like, for the fans as well, and gives them bragging rights for, I mean, it'd be to the next season till we played them. So it was, just the whole day in general, the whole build up to it was massive, and then to go out and get a result like that was amazing.
And leaving Derby, the decision to leave, I think Derby wanted to keep you. Is that true? And it was your decision to?
Yeah.
What was your kind of reason for wanting to leave in the end?
I mean, there was a lot of stuff that not well documented, but the season before that I had some problems that went on behind, like, the scenes, that I actually felt sort of really let down by, to be honest. And I mean, I'd never went in to speak about it in detail, because like, I've got too much like respect.
Being left out.
Not so much being like, I mean, that doesn't help that you're not playing. But there was just other things that went on, and it was the people that were involved in it are no longer at the club. So that's why I've never really went into. So I've never really went into speak about it, because I've never really felt the need to. But no, there was just sort of a bit of damage was done. And then just at the time, obviously, it was the route as well. Even under him, I had spells out the team, and I had a bit of a falling out, training ground bust up with the staff. And like, I ended up training with the kids for a couple of months. I think it was after, I can't remember what game it was after. I think we went to travel, it was a London team, I think we were travelling to Brentford, and it was that the day before the game, day before we travelled, and that happened, and I would get completely pulled out of the squad, told I wasn't travelling until I apologised. But I was like, I'll get absolutely nothing to apologise for here. So, but a bit like stubborn, and things weren't going well at the time. I felt that I probably should have got back in the team. I didn't. And it was just frustration, like, that happened. And then I think Brentford, and then I think the first game I got back in was Cardiff away. So I can't remember the exact time period from those two games. Basically training with the kids, training with like the first team at times. But when they were travelling and stuff, then I'd be with the 23s. So, and then the opportunity just, I always wanted to go abroad. I wanted to try something different, and I just felt that, and I just had my daughter, so I was like, if I don't go and try something now, I'm not going to do it. Once she gets settled, like, whatever, I'm never going to make that decision to go somewhere if I don't do it when I still have time. And that was really what it came down to. I mean, it was hard, like, to go. Obviously, you said there, Derby wanted me to re-sign. They'd actually made an offer. Perfect timing, made an offer, and I said no, I said no to the offer, and it was like literally 2 days before the Sheffield away game where I scored the own goal.
Oh, I remember, yeah, what a finish.
Right foot. I've never done that again. So that was, I'd turned down a contract. It was released that I'd turned down a contract, and then I scored the own goal. So I was like, oh, this is going horribly wrong. And then I was offered another contract, but I don't know if it was
reduced.
I don't know if it was because of the own goal, but the second offer, the way it was structured, was less. So I was like, nah, this isn't sort of working out. And I wasn't made up, but like I kind of had in my mind at that point that I was maybe trying that time to go and try something different. Like I was getting back into the form that I felt that like I should have been at, like the standards that I should have been at. I was getting back into that. I came on and scored quite a lot of like late goals leading up to that. So I was like, I'm definitely getting back there. But I just felt it was the right time to make the decision. And that was it, to be honest.
Looking back then, right decision made with how you are now, settled in Kansas and playing. And do you think leaving at that point, obviously you had your mind made up, the damage was done. Do you think you made the right decision?
I mean, I think so. Like I said, like the things that happened, I felt let down, and like the people had left the club by that point that were involved in it, I don't know, it just sort of left a bit of a sour taste. And then, like I said, I just wanted to try something different. I felt I just needed something different to get just that little bit back in my game. And I mean, I worked out, came out here, and got myself back in the Scotland squad as well, which I'd been out for a couple of years at that point. So, I mean, it's worked out great. I loved it at Derby, but I mean, I do love it here. Settled well. My family are settled here as well. It's a nice place, and I think I didn't want to go to a team when I was coming out here, and I know people were looking at it going, oh, he's going for a lifestyle, but I mean, no disrespect, Kansas is a lovely place, but if I was going for a lifestyle, I'd go to somewhere like a sort of bigger or major city, because there was a bit of interest from like a few teams over here. But I just felt with the sort of, I mean, I don't have like huge knowledge of everyone here, but the little knowledge I did have, and then Mo Johnson, who played here, who I know from back in Scotland, he played with the manager, he played here, so I was able to speak to him a lot about it, see a lot of the team, and then I was able to speak to the manager here as well, and it was very similar to how we played under McLaren, so that was a big appeal to me, because I was like, how much I enjoyed that, and if I'm looking to sort of get something back, then what better way than to go back to like the time I enjoyed most. So that was the reason. That's why I chose here. It worked out. It worked out well. We done a great season last year, but my first season, I think we scored the most goals in the club's history. With like the way it was literally just familiar. It was like the way we played at Derby under McLaren. So, and even now we haven't played a lot of games, but we're sitting top, sitting in a good position. So I just feel it's definitely worked for me. I've managed to keep myself in the Scotland squad. I missed out in the last couple because of injury, but no, it's definitely, I feel like it's worked out for me.
If it's about lifestyle, you'd still be in Derby. There's no net weight in Kansas. Just finally, mate, when you look back at your time at Derby, what's the overriding emotion and memory? How do you look back at your time? Is it obviously positive?
Always positive. I mean, like I said, like we've spoke about just briefly there, that a couple of things that happened, but I mean, I didn't really help myself the way I reacted to it, the way I took it. So I mean, there was lessons learned there, but I mean, take away that, I mean, nothing. I've got nothing negative about Derby. I loved it there. I mean, I still speak to a lot of the boys. I've got a group chat with me, Jeff, Cyrus, and Incy. Still keep in contact every like most weeks. If not, like we speak quite a lot, and I still speak to like Thorny, Jono. Like I'm still really good mates with all these guys, and we still keep in contact. So I mean, I've made some great mates there. The fans were amazing with me from day one, which I was always grateful for. I think everyone knew that. And even to this day, they're still brilliant with me. So I loved it there, and that's what made the decision so hard to go. But just felt it was the best for at that time. It was best for everyone involved.
Just quickly, I asked for questions. I won't be able to read them all because I've had about. Do you mind if I just read a couple of questions from fans? Is that all right? Yeah.
Of course, mate. Of course, no problem.
The first one: What's your plans for life after football?
Should start thinking about this, man. Creeping in my 30s.
Going back today, it could be podcasting because it's been decent.
No, I don't know. I don't know if I want to stay involved in football. I think I'll stay involved at some capacity, but I don't know if coaching or managing is for me. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that interest me that I'd like to do. It's a weird one. I've always had the appeal, even when I was a kid, of like being like a fireman. I don't know. I swear there's just something about it that I don't know. I think it's still because you're in a sort of team environment. I mean, I couldn't go and work on my own after just the way I am and being involved in this for so long. I just feel like I need to be in like a sort of team environment. I mean, and what better one than that? You get to help people as well. So, and I know a couple of people back home who are firemen as well. I don't know. I just when they speak about it, it just always interests me.
I wasn't expecting that.
That's a weird one, but I don't know. It's just something.
I might do my badges. They might do this. That's the normal stuff I get, mate.
I don't know. I don't think I think I could be a coach, but the whole managing thing, I just don't know if it's for me. I mean, the main thing I look forward to is playing games. So I don't know if I would enjoy as much like everything leading up to it if I wasn't getting to play.
If you could change one thing about your time at Derby, I think we've probably touched on it, but if you could change one thing, what would it be from your time at Derby? If you could change one thing from your time,
Gary O'Neill not taking me down outside the box. That tackle.
It still hurts. I know we've already touched on it, but even when you say it now, it's still like horrible. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this one, but it's been. And I like to throw a few curveballs in there. Who's the biggest shit-ass you've ever played with?
Shithouse. Wow. I don't know. Normally I would answer that. It wouldn't bother me, but no one's really. I've not really played with many guys that I'd say. There was nobody really in that Derby team that I would say was a house either.
Who were the?
No, I wouldn't say anyone sort of sticks out.
Who were the biggest characters in that dressing room? Obviously, like the likes of Bucko, and were they like the standout?
They were like obviously. It depends like really what you mean by characters. Like obviously Bucko, guys like that who are like big imposing sort of characters. But I mean we had so many. At the time it was just sort of young, like daft players. With so many. I mean obviously Bucko sticks out for everyone as being a strong character, but the team was full of them. You had Lee Grant as well, Richard Keogh, Chrissy Martin, all like really big characters. Eustace when he came in, absolute legend, that guy Eustace. So just constantly characters, and then you set like a different type of character. You've got like the younger boys like Jeff, Vincy Cyrus, Jono when he came in. You had all these guys who were different cars, like just Andy Vyman, like all just like brilliant like characters, good guys to have about. With so many that I wouldn't sit here and pick out one.
No, and I'll leave it with this one. I saw this one and thought this is a cracker. Did you know the rocket against Forest was in as soon as it left your foot?
Yeah.
Did you?
As soon as I hit it, I knew it was in.
Really?
It was still to this day. It's the cleanest I've ever hit a ball. I mean, I'd scored one in the Derby in Scotland when I played for Dundee United, and as soon as I hit that, I knew it was close. But the one at Forest, as soon as I hit it, and it just as the defender moves and it goes behind his back.
Yes.
There's no way he's seen that.
When you watch it now, it goes over his back, but it just kind of moves away, doesn't it? Just slightly moves.
Just enough, and
Yeah.
no, leading up to that, I hadn't scored for a while, and I was like banging them in training, like shots like that, and they were like, "Why don't you hit it? Like just hit it." And I think because I hadn't scored for so long, you just get it in your head, like I'm not going to start lashing shots from everywhere. But I think the whole occasion, we were already up, everyone was like buzzing. I just thought, but even like my initial thought when I get the ball, I wasn't going to shoot. I was like, I take my touch, I was looking, I was like, I was opening up here, and then took another touch and hit it. And I mean, it's the best goal I've scored, and like I still get people messaging me to this day, like what they were doing when it went in, like injuries that they got after it went in. So I mean,
Yeah, I was about 4 rows further down the stand than I was when you put it that way. 'Cause I remember being frustrated that we were 3-0 up at our time, and I think it was about 60 minutes when you scored, thinking, "Come on, like,
I need a couple here, but
come on, let's make it short now, lads."
no, that was even like people send me it now, and like the angles and just like the commentating, the noise of the crowd when it goes in, man. It's just still when I watch it, I get goosebumps watching that one.
Incredible. Well, mate, I really, really appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. You didn't have to, and with everyone, and honestly, thank you so much for doing it. I really, really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all, mate. It's a pleasure.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Up the Rams.
Yeah.
Nice one, Johnny. Take care, pal.
Yeah, take care, mate.